الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا وقائدنا اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم افتح لنا باب رحمتك اللهم يسر لنا كل أمورنا اللهم لك الحمد على كل حال يا كريم يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث بسم الله والحمد لله. Today we have a very special session, perhaps second last, we don't know, that Allah will cast into our hearts and minds, but perhaps the second last session on Suratul Fatiha with Imam al-Rāzī. May Allah have mercy on him. And today is very special. I really feel this is a special morning because we are going to go deep into the ocean of Suratul Fatiha with al-Rāzī, who is normally classified as one of the greatest rationalist within brackets or within quotation marks, because when applied to our tradition, rationalism is not what we think of a rational person in our own time. This is a different kind of rationality. This is the use of the mind to, this is the application of the mind, application of reason, application of logic, but at a different level. Nevertheless, what I wanted to say is that the specialness of today's session, and if we have one more session on the same, is because Imam al-Rāzī is inaccurately described as one of the rationalists, greatest rationalist, mufassir. His tafsir, of course, has all the philosophical discussions in it. But when you read this last section of his tafsir, it's almost 240 pages in his tafsir, you feel you are reading Imam al-Ghazālī. This is the specialness of today's session, because he is going to take us to the mysteries of al-Fatiha in a manner that one wouldn't expect if we go by the stereotypes. And this is also a great reminder for all of us not to listen to those who stereotype. We have really in our tradition well-rounded scholars who are not unidimensional. Of course, there are gradations. I don't want to go into digression right now, but I really feel blessed, and I hope you also have this shukr that we are really blessed to be in the company of one of the greatest minds in our tradition this morning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed us to reflect on his book with him, and this in itself is a great blessing. So you would recall that we had started to, we began the study of the Suratul Fatiha as a whole last time. And today, inshallah, we will continue that. I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see what is being said. So this is the tafsir that we are dealing with. And al-Fasl al-Awwal fil asrar al-Aqaliyya. This is, it says, this is min hazi surah. These are the mysteries. These are the rational mysteries of this surah. And this is in the chapter al-Kalam fi tafsir majmu' hadhihi surah. وَفِيهِ فَصُولٌ. One of the greatest aspect of his tafsir is just the organization of it. Like there is nothing random. Everything is spelled out right at the beginning. It's really an open source tradition. Look at just this. This is his kalam. This is his exposition on the tafsir of the surah as a whole. And in it are fusul. And there are chapters. Chapters is perhaps not a very good translation, but nevertheless, there are divisions in this kalam, in this exposition. There are divisions, and the first of these is fil asrar al aqaliyah, the aqaliyah, which is very difficult to translate because when we say rationalistic, it's not really a good translation. Al-aql, as you know, is putting things together, 2 + 2. Making connections. So I'm really not fond of the term rational.
Screen is not showing.
Sorry?
Your screen is not showing.
Is it the case for everyone? Is the screen not showing for everyone?
Yes, we just could see your video.
You just see, okay. So maybe it's a different kind of share screen. Now, is it the same?
Yeah. Yes, we could see it now.
You can see the screen now?
Yes.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah for mentioning that. But you heard everything, inshallah. So, الكلام في تفسير مجموع هذه السورة وفيه فصول. الفصل الأول في الأسرار العقلية. Now this, again, I was saying that this is not rationalistic explanations or rationalistic mysteries, because mystery in itself cannot be rational, as we understand the term rational. So before I begin to dive in this ocean with you, inshallah, together, one of the greatest central aspect of this whole fasl, this whole chapter, this whole ending, and also everywhere else in our tradition, Imam al-Ghazālī, may Allah have mercy on him, everyone has one central aspect, and that is sirat. We say Surat al-Mustaqim last time, or the day, we said that this is the key of this surah. In fact, this is the key of everything that we are doing in this dunya. As-sirat, the path. Surat al-Mustaqim is a dua, but this chapter, this whole ending, this whole reflection is based on just this aspect that we are all on a path. The entire cosmos is on a path. And the path is obviously something that begins and that ends. Nothing is unending. If we could understand this, everything becomes extremely clear. We come into this dunya at a certain time, at a certain place. We depart at a certain time, at a certain place. When we depart, our path hasn't ended yet. The path is going to end at the end of time for this whole cosmos. So the cosmos has a path. When we say path, when we say a sirat, we are doing two things. Number one, we are dealing with something very mysterious in itself that is called time. And then we are dealing with makan, with space. We are dealing with time and space. This is like centuries before these were distinguished by Einstein, for example, and others. Time and space. And Rāzī is going to delve deep into that ocean. So you and I, we are all travelers. Everyone is a traveler. Every existent thing is traveling, willingly or unwillingly. And we are really blessed and This is greatest blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we are willingly traveling on the path, consciously submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and saying, this is our relationship. We are your slaves, Ya Allah. We are ibad and we are traveling. And travel requires, travel we understand, begins and travel ends. And there are several beginnings. Our first beginning was the day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took us out for alastu bi rabbikum, the mithaq we established. The day he created our arwah, our spirits. Then the second beginning, when that spirit was embodied. The third beginning, when that body and the spirit came out into this dunya. The fourth beginning is when we enter the grave, or whatever Allah has destined for us, whether it's ocean or a grave or a mountain, or we are scattered with a bomb these days, or whatever happens to the body. That's beginning of our fourth life, until the resurrection, which begins the fifth and the final. If we conclude with the everlasting place that Allah has destined for us, and that we are earning, we are working towards that. Now, this whole aspect of Surat, this path, this traveling, is then connected with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that guides us on this path. This is our belief that this is the guide that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent on the last of his messengers. And he preserved it for us. He told us what to do. Every single thing is in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, two things. One, innal insana, indeed insan, we are all insan, right? And we have been created fi kabad. Insana fi kabad. We are in a state of kabad. That's our human condition. Now, Imam al-Rāzī begins by saying, alamu anna alam ad-dunya alimul qadur wa alimul akhirah alimul safa. So, فَالْآخِرَةُ بِالنِّسْبَةِ إِلَى الدُّنْيَا كَالْأَصْلُ بِالنِّسْبَةِ إِلَى الْفَرَعِ. Know that the alam ad-dunya, this dunya that in which we are living, is alimul qudur. This is muddy. For alimul akhirah, alimul safa. That is clear, pure. It's not tinted. This dunya by its nature is qudur. Therefore, this is a photocopy. This is everything in this dunya is just as if it says kal asli bil nisbati ilal fara, as if the original and the branches. Wa kal jismu bil nisbati ilal zil, yani as if the body and its shadow. فَكُلُّ مَا فِي الدُّنْيَا فَلَا بُدَّ لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنْ أَصْلٍ. So whatever is in this dunya, it's impossible that it can exist without having its asl, its original, in the hereafter. هَانَكَ السَّرَابِ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَالْخَيَالِ الْعَاطِلِ. Look at the beauty of this Arabic. وَكُلُّ مَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ فلا بد له في الدنيا من مثال وإلا لكان كالشجرة بلا ثمرة ومدلول بلا دليل. فعالم الروحانيات عالم الأدواء والأنوار والبهجة والسرور واللذة والخيور ولا شك أن الروحانيات ما شاء الله. Look at this. This is the Aqliya. This is the part of the Aqliya. This is the part of intellect, connecting things, connecting dots, and this is just amazing how extraordinary this mind is. So the word everything in dunya has an asl. And if it were not the case, then we are just talking empty words. Then there is no reality to anything. And conversely, everything in the hereafter must have a mithal, a similitude in this dunya, or else it would be like a tree with no fruit, or a referent with no signifier. Is that clear? Yani both the relationship of al-asl, remember everything, even the fruits in Jannah, this dunya just has a photocopy of that, like just a shadow of what is there. But both ways, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had not made this mithal, this photocopy, then it would be like having a tree with no fruit. And he says that there is no doubt that the spiritual world has gradations. And this is one of the greatest aspect of our deen, that this deen has a hierarchy. And this is where I think the modern world has a problem with Islam, because when you say that one vote, one man, one woman, one vote is not really the case, then say, well, you don't believe in this political system. So, and there are gradations, and even because this is fitrah, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made diversity. Therefore, even this false claim of equality, everyone has a voice. Yes, everyone has a voice, but not all voices are the same. There are different frequencies. So anyways, I don't need to digress. But because there are gradations, that means the gradations are also in both this dunya that we see and the world which we do not see. We do not see the angels, we do not see the spirits, but there is someone in that realm, ذي قوة عند ذي العرش مكين مطاع ثم أمين. There is Jibreel alayhi salam. And then in this dunya, likewise, there is one person who will ashraful ashkhas, he says, who is the most noble, who is the most perfect. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Because we have these standards, we have these perfections, we have this hierarchy with the highest, therefore we have a model to follow. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed his last message to his last messenger in the full light of history, as they say, and he left behind his blessed example, even how to begin our day, how to start talking, how to walk, how to eat, every single detail that he has left behind. Wahu Rasulul Bushra, and he is the Rasul, he is the messenger of glad tidings. Alayhi salatu wassalam. كمال حال الرسول البشرى كمال حال الرسول البشري إنما يظهر في الدعوات إلى الله. What is the perfection of a messenger? Any messenger? That his da'wah is perfect, because that is why he was sent. So this is the connection that I alluded to last time. And he says, وَهَذِي دَعْوَةُ إِنَّمَا تَتِمُّ بِأَمُورِ سَبْعَةٍ ذَكَرَهَا الله تعالى في خاتمة Suratul Baqarah. he says this perfection of the invitation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember Imam al-Ghazālī, when we started way back doing the thematic study of the Quran, we began with the Jawahir al-Quran, wherein Imam al-Ghazālī had pointed out that the Quran is actually the sir of the Quran. The most secret aspect of the Quran is that this is a da'wah, this is an invitation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to his ibad, to his slaves. Now, building on that, the perfection of this da'wah, the perfection of this invitation are 7 matters. Imam al-Rāzī says, Tatimmu bi-amuri sabati zakaraha Allahu ta'ala fi khatamati Suratul Baqarah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned at the end of Suratul Baqarah, these 7 matters. So this is the connection that he is going to make between Suratul Fatiha and the ending of Suratul Baqarah. The ending of Suratul Baqarah. And he says, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ كُلِّ آمَنَّ بِاللَّهِ and لَا نُفَرِّقُ بَيْنَ أَحَدٍ مِّن رُسُلِهِ. So 7 matters mentioned at the end of Suratul Baqarah, the last 2 ayahs. So what are the belief? What are the arkan here? Number 1, kulluna amana billahi. We all of us, all the believers, they believe in Allah, wal malaikati wal kutubi, and his books, his angels, his books, and his messengers, and we don't make any distinction between one and the other messengers. So these are the 4 فهذه الأربعة المتعلقات بمعرفة المبتدأ وهي معرفة الربوبية. Is this clear? These 4 matters. Number 1, كلنا آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله. The 4 matters are the belief in Allah, his angels, his books, and his messengers. These are the 4 matters concerning the knowledge of the beginning of the path, which is to know, which is to وهي معرفة الربوبية. So this is the foundation. These are the 4 matters which are concerning the beginning. We cannot begin the path, we cannot begin the journey without knowing these 4. Number 1, amana billahi, belief in Allah, and number 2, belief in the angels, the books, and the messengers. There is no path, there is no beginning without these. And then once we have known this, then we have bima'rifatul abudiyah, the relationship that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is the knowledge, that is the gnosis, that the ma'rifah of abudiyah. Our relationship is that of being the ʿAbd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are 2 things. Once we know this, that we are in this relationship, we have the beginning and we have perfection. So unless we begin, we cannot reach the perfection, right? So huwa mabni ala amrayn, ahdahuma al-mabda wa thani al-kamal. We begin and then we strive to reach the perfection. What is the beginning? In Suratul Baqarah, what is the beginning? Can anyone guess? وَقَالُوا سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. The believers, they say, we heard and we obey. We hear and we obey. We hear and we obey. So this is essential. This is taslim. This is Islam. This is submission. This is saying, yes, we hear this invitation and we are ready to begin. And the beginning is ata'ana. Beginning, there is no beginning in Islam without taslim. There is no beginning in our deen without submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, we cannot begin the path by doubting and by saying, well, or conditionally saying, yes, if it works with me, if it works with my lifestyle, if it works how I live, you know, I cannot wake up for Fajr because I sleep late. So I don't, you know, I hear, but I don't obey. No, we conform to the message. Message does not conform to us, to our lifestyle. So what is the perfection? If the beginning is this Samina wa Ata'na, what is the perfection? It is فَهُوَ التَّوَكَّلَ عَلَى اللَّهِ وَالْإِلْتِجَاءُ بِالْكُلِّيَّةِ إِلَيْهِ وَهُوَ قَوْلُهُ غُفْرَانَكَ رَبَّنَا وَغُفْرَانَكَ رَبَّنَا. وهو قطع النظر عن الأعمال البشرية وطاعات الإنسانية والالتجاء بالكلية إلى الله تعالى وطلب الرحمة منه وطلب المغفرة. This is the perfection, that our reliance then becomes completely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The perfection of servitude is complete dependence upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, turning towards Him and saying, oh, our Lord, forgive us. This is the greatest liberation. This is the greatest freedom. You know, we talk about the freedom that supposedly we have in this civilization, the freedom, everyone is free to do what they want to do. The greatest freedom we have really is through this one single servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because once we know that our rizq, everything, joy, grief, everything comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the only one controlling everything. Just everything falls apart. Every other thing falls apart. There is no one else. There is no boss. You know, it's so really disturbing to hear Muslims saying, oh, you know, my boss said this and my boss said that. You have no boss. There is only one boss. We only have one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to obey. And that obedience, that servitude releases us from all other servitudes. We have relationships, we have contracts at jobs, at places. We don't have bosses, we don't follow anyone. And this is not right. Now, if this is understood, we have 6 now out of the 7, we have clarified 6. The 4 Marifatul, 4 concerning with the Marifa to Rabubiyah, 2 concerning with the Marifatul Abudiyah. One more time, the 4 were Kulluna amana billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rusuli, the belief in Allah, in the malaika, in the angels, in the books, in the prophets. 4. And then the 2 which are related to the Abudiyah, which is our relationship. The 2 basically are that there is a beginning and there is a perfection. We begin and we reach the perfection. There are millions of people who haven't even started the journey yet. You know, people spend their whole life without even starting their life. This is the greatest tragedy. This is the greatest tragedy, that there is no consciousness of this relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's a sleepwalking. We're born one day and we depart the other day, and in between there is nothing. So we are really, really thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for having given us the beginning of the path, having given us this understanding that we are on this path, that there is a path, everyone has a path. And then to strive for perfection, and we are never going to reach it, we know that. And he's going to explain what are the, why are we not reached, what are the hurdles, inshallah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left this perfection for us to follow. So it's not abstract, it's very real, because he walked, alayhi salatu wasalam, he talked, he ate in front of the entire human history. Like, we know these details. We just have to go and live there in that time, in that presence. Alayhi salatu wassalam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the tawfiq and ability to visit our Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam every day, many times, by sending salawat upon him consciously, entering into a relationship with him, joining ourselves with him and the righteous companions. Awliya Allah, the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are still here. So the 6 things, perfection is the tawakkul upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we have understood these things, then once this is known, there is nothing left but to travel to the presence and this is the 7th. It says, وَتَمَّتْ مَعْرِفَةُ الْعَبُودِيَةِ بِسَبَبِ الْمَعْرِفَةِ هَذَيْنِ الْأَصْلَيْنِ الْمَذْكُورَيْنِ لَمْ يُبْقَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ إِلَّا الذَّهَابُ إِلَى حَضْرَةِ الْمَالِكِ الْوَهَّابِ والاستعداد للذهاب والملائكة والكتب والرسل وأما الوسط فإن يكمل معرفته بمعرفة أمرين سمعنا ما أطعنا. He's just repeating, he's just reinforcing what he said. Then he says the 7th is what is the ending of Suratul Baqarah, which is وَإِلَيْكَ الْمَصِيرُ, and to you is the return. وفي النهاية صار واحدا. So once again, he completes his section by summarizing. So the four things at the beginning, two in the middle, and the last is wahid, just one. Ilayhi masir. I hope this is all very clear. The station, the first one is the Ma'rifatul Rububiyya, which has four aspects. Then the Ma'rifatul Abudiyya, which has two aspects, the beginning and the perfection. And finally, the ending, which is the Ilaykal Masir, to you is the return. And look how these two last ayahs of Suratul Baqarah, the number of times the active voice shifts. Like, it's just amazing how many times we have, how many layers of these two last ayahs should be memorized by everyone. Now, what would be the case? What would be our station if we have understood all of these seven? What would be then required? If this is understood, if these seven are understood, then there is nothing left but dua wa tadarru. Then there is nothing left but to make the dua. And what do we say? رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَاخِذْنَا إِن نَّسِينَا أَوْ أَخْطَأْنَا. Right? So there are seven stations which give rise to seven stations in the dua. And then these are going to be compared with the seven ayahs of Suratul Fatiha. This is the greatest insight that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted Imam al-Rāzī, to have this very systematic schema of seven stations, seven needs mentioned in Suratul Baqarah, and then connect them to the seven ayahs of Suratul Fatiha. If someone could make a graph of this, like a corresponding, this would be really great. رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَاخِذْنَا إِن نَّسِينَا أَوْ أَخْطَأْنَا. So this is the first one of the seven stations. رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَاخِذْنَا إِن نَّسِينَا أَوْ أَخْطَأْنَا. This is the ayah 286. O Rabb, condemn us not if we forget or fall into error. When we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, what are we doing? We are beginning with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are remembering, because forgetfulness has an antonym, it has an opposite, which is remembrance. فَضِدُّ النِّسْيَانِ هُوَ ذِكْرٌ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ ذِكْرًا كَثِيرًا وَاذْكُرُوا رَبَّكَ إِذَا نَسِيتَ تَذَكَّرُوا فَإِذَا هُمْ مُبْصِرُونَ وَاذْكُرِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ بُكْرَةً وَأَصِيلًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us to remember Him over and over. وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ وَأَنْسَاهُمْ. Suratul Hashr. Don't be like those who have forgotten Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then He has made them forget themselves. Everything depends on the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَهَذَا الذِّكْرَ إِنَّمَا يَحْصُلُ بِقَوْلِ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ. If we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim consciously, knowing what we are saying, we are remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the opposite of forgetfulness. So that is the first, the remembrance. The second station in Suratul Baqarah is Rabbana wa la tahmil alayna isran kama hamaltahu ala alladhina min qablina. O our Rabb, don't burden us with the kind of burden that you have burdened previous people, right? Do not burden us like that which you did lay upon those before us. The removal of burden is a cause for praise, right? So when we are in this need, ربنا لا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. And if the burden is lifted, what would we say? We say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Right? When the burden is lifted, what is our response? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Now the third, in Suratul Baqarah, we have Rabbana wa la tahmil alay, Rabbana wa la tahmil ma la taqna bih. Wa dhalika isharatu ila kamali rahmati. And this is the ishara, this is the allusion to the perfection of mercy. Ila kamali rahmat. Wa dhalika huwa qawluhu ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The two names of mercy. This is number 3. Then we have a Rabi'a qawluhu wa'fu anna. We say wa'fu anna li'annaka anta al-maliku lil-qada'i wal-hukumati fi yawm ad-din. We say, O our Rabb, wa'fu anna. Because He is the owner of the judgment, of the hukm, of what is going to happen to us. And this corresponds to Maliki Yawmiddin in Suratul Fatiha. The 5th, Qawluhu Ta'ala waghfir lana. Wa'fu anna waghfir lana. And forgive us. Now you see, wa'fu anna and waghfir lana. There is a subtle difference between forgiveness and wa'fu anna. Wa'fu anna is like just don't even put our deeds on the scale, because we are going to fail. Just don't even look at all what we have done. Just have your mercy upon us. And waghfir lana, and forgive us. Grant us forgiveness. And what is the basis on which we can ask this from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because in this dunya we say, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een. We say, you alone we worship, and you alone we seek your help, And if we say this consciously, willingly, and knowing what we are saying, then in the hereafter, we can say, Waghfir lana. Because in the dunya, Ya Allah, in dunya, abadnaka, we worship you, wasta'ana bika fi kulli muhimmat, in every matter in this dunya. While we were here, while we were there, we worshipped you and we sought your help. So today we can say, forgive us. And number 6 in Suratul Baqarah, we say, Warhamna. Warhamna, and have mercy on us. لِأَنَّا طَلَبْنَا الْهِدَايَةَ مِنْكَ فِي الْقَوْلِنَا. Because in the dunya, we sought your guidance by asking, اهْدِنَا الصِّرَاطَ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. And finally, the 7th, أَنْتَ مَوْلَانَا فَانْصُرْنَا عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ. In Suratul Baqarah, we say, Anta Maulana, you are our protector. So grant us help against al-Qawm al-Kafirin, on the disbelievers. And this is when we say, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. So these are the 7 correspondences. فهذه المراتب السبعة مذكورة في آخر سورة البقرة. And you know, when the Prophet ﷺ, one of the traditions we have is that when he went on Miraj, that was the highest station Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him. And this is where Suratul Fatiha was granted. So whosoever recites Suratul Fatiha actually travels on this path. Thus the 7 stations are covered in this surah. So whosoever recites Suratul Fatiha actually travels this path of nur, this path of radiance, this path of light. And the Prophet ﷺ said, As-salatu mirajul mu'min. As-salah is the miraj of the believers, ascension of the believer. And this surah is called Suratul Salah. So once we have understood all of this, inshallah, next time we are going to recite Suratul Fatiha. We are going to recite it with this understanding of the 7 stations, the beginning, the belief, the certitude. Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim is the 6th of these 7 stations, although this is the greatest of the, this is the culmination, this is the dua. Everything else is an explanation or the beginning, because when we go and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala something, we don't just open our mouth as whatever comes out. We have etiquettes of dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us etiquettes of dua. So we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We begin with the praise. We invoke His mercy. We assert that we are your slaves. We do all the etiquettes and then we say, ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the tawfiq to recite Suratul Fatiha every time as if we are reciting it for the first time, every time, as if we are making the miraj of the believers, Salatu Miraj al-Mu'min, ascension. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the tawfiq to keep some of the fruits every time, so we don't just stay at the beginning. And we in order to keep traveling, every time we say Salah, we enter Salah and we end Salah, there is a journey in itself. But at the end of the journey, it's like coming back with some fruit and keeping that, and then making the next and the next and the next. Otherwise, we are just at the same place all our life. So then it becomes mechanical. Inshallah, we stop here. But I just want to mention that, inshallah, I again don't want to rush, but whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in our hearts, when we are on the path, because of our condition, we have impediments. We have lots of problems, self-created or given to us as human condition. But all of these, this is another greatest, everything, mashallah, he's really a great mind. But this next, al-Faslu Sani, fi madakhili shaitan, the second fasl that he has, the second section that he has, is about the entrance of shaitan, the places from which shaitan enters. So this is what we did, some of it last time as well, ash-shahwa wal-ghadab wal-hawa. If this was not the case, if we didn't have an enemy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he is our enemy, and he's got junood, he's not alone, he's got troops, he's got forces. So what are the ways in which we can protect ourselves? Who are the enemies, who are the troops of shaitan, and how does he attack us? It's like having a fort, but there are 3 weak points in the walls, and shaitan knows those 3 points. So that's where he's going to attack. Questions? I really feel we have entered this gold mine of knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved for us through these. They were not only great minds, but they were just people of deep insights into the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which cannot come without having traveled the path. Like if you go to Iran, if you go to Ray, Imam al-Rāzī's grave is not identified. I've been there twice, but it's just generally known, the area is known generally where he is buried, among others. And Allah granted him this station 800 years ago. This first part of his tafsir, this 250 pages of tafsir of Suratul Fatiha. So let's continue to travel, and every day, every salah, we gather some fruit, inshallah. and we share with our children, with our families, we don't keep it to ourselves. Otherwise, it will just rot. Once we have something, we have to. Shuhada al-nas. Allah made us shuhada al-nas. He made us witnesses upon people. And we do this with all humility. We don't know everything. But the light, the nur that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants has to be transmitted, has to be shared. The fruit needs to be shared. But we need to share with those who are worthy of receiving it. I mean, we have obligations to our children and to some other relations we have, but this is a time when we cannot just throw pearls, as Isa alayhi salam told us. It has to be done properly. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to continue on His path that He has charted out for us. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. يا الله أنت حليم كريم عظيم تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم افتح لنا أبواب رحمتك ويسر لنا كل أمورنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم يا شافي أنت شافي يا كريم اشفي صدورنا وبطوننا من كل داء. اللهم اشفي كل مسلمين والمسلمات يا رب العالمين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث وصل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.